Hi, everybody. This is Steve Maggi from SMA Law Firm. Welcome to Building the Bridge. I have the honor of having as my guest today Michael Soon Lee, real estate broker extraordinaire and author based in the San Francisco area. Hi, Michael. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, Steve. Good to see you.
So we both have the pleasure of working with international clients, and that's the focus of what we do. How important is it to be culturally sensitive when you're a broker working with international buyers or potential buyers? Is it important at all?
Well, I think it is, Steve. In fact, that's why I wrote this here book called Cross-Cultural Selling for Dummies. Shameless plug, but people ask me to write that book because culture was driving real estate brokers crazy. They say, well, how come people have to negotiate everything? How come they want me to, do things their way and not my way? And I think obviously culture awareness is so important for a real estate broker. And unfortunately, Steve, a lot of brokers in the United States don't think culture is important.
Right.
Many agents are taught to be color blind, which means I don't see culture, I don't see color, I don't see race, I don't see any of that. And unfortunately, while that's a great goal, it's really not possible because statistics show that when you see somebody walking down the street a long distance away, the first thing you notice is gender, and the second thing you notice is race. You can't help it. It's an implicit bias.
Exactly.
You can't do anything about it, but you can become aware. So a lot of my work over the years has been teaching real estate brokers how to be sensitive to people's culture. And unfortunately, most brokers, if they're not trained, will unintentionally insult their client, like trying to just automatically shake their hand. And you know, Steve, that somebody from India, like a woman from India or a woman from Japan, that would be incredibly insulting, or a Muslim woman, if you were just to even try and shake her hand, would be very insulting to her, her family, and her religion. But a lot of brokers in the United States have no idea.
And there's no excuse anymore, right? And maybe 100 years ago, people could say, oh, I'm just not aware of their culture. But now all the information is out there, right? So there's really no excuse if you want to expand your clientele to international buyers.
No, there is no excuse. But unfortunately, only about 25% of all Americans have a passport, which means they don't travel much. And I like to travel internationally as often as I can. And that helps me to understand other cultures and other differences. But, it becomes pretty obvious the minute you meet somebody. First of all, if they try and shake your hand, there's a bad sign that they're just going to do it their way, right, and they're not willing to adjust to you. Whereas someone who's been taught and is sensitive, they'll greet you. I would say, hi, I'm Michael Lee with RE/MAX. I wouldn't put my hand out. I would hesitate for a moment and see what the client does first. If they nod to me, I will nod back. If they do a full bow, I will bow to them. But if they put their hand out, absolutely, I will shake their hand. But less and less, Steve, I'm seeing less handshaking going on and much more, very subtle acknowledgments of respect. Just a subtle nod is all it takes, and we take it from there. But again, a lot of Americans, they feel, they have a saying in America, it's my way or the highway. And that means you do what I want to do. And unfortunately, that can be very insulting to a client. And if they're not sensitive to your culture, are they really going to listen to your needs, right, and to your wants?
Because in a way, my next question. In a way, they have to be culturally sensitive to you. Once you've created that bridge, you've shown the respect, you've done your research, you're treating them as if they would be treated in their home country in a very respectful way, then they're much more open to respecting how the US system works and not imposing their culture on the US on the real estate transaction, right? There's a flip side to this where they have to also take off that mentality or that cultural hat they have and not impose the way real estate is done in India or in Argentina or somewhere else, but also have you hold their hand and say, this is how it works in the US, this is how it works in the Bay Area. And because you've bridged that gap culturally and you've respected them the way that they need to be respected and deserve, they're able to also go with you and believe in you and let you take over that process, right?
Well, I agree completely, Steve, that people from other countries coming into the United States have to be open to learning about the differences. And what I've seen over my 40 plus years in real estate is that people from other countries, they're very big on education. That's one of the big things. And so I educate them about the whole process, and they really appreciate that. Maybe that's some of my background as a teacher coming out, but when I educate them about, how do you look at property? How do you make an offer on property? How do you finance property in the United States? How
Right.
do you maintain a house or even a commercial building? And what are the zoning laws all about? They love it, and they really like learning, because I feel that an educated client is a better client. And they have no problem in learning about that. The challenge is there's two types of brokers that you'll find in the United States, Steve, and I know you've worked
Okay.
with both types.
Yeah.
But the one type is, I know everything. I'm the expert in real estate. Just close your eyes, follow along, and I'll take you through the whole process. The problem is, I don't think that builds a lot of trust.
Exactly.
And it doesn't help the client to understand what just happened. It's the difference between doing something for them and helping them walk through it themselves, learn about it. They have a much better understanding when they've actually done it. It's like learning technology. If our son comes in and fixes something for us, I didn't learn a thing.
Right.
But if he let me do it with his guidance, I learn, and then I don't need his help the next time. And
Well, hopefully
I
they'll still
think,
need your help, but
well, yes, it's like an attorney too, Steve.
yeah.
But, the attorney that helps me to understand what this is all about and why I want to go this way, rather than just tell me, do this, do that. I feel better as a person. I feel better educated, and I feel more empowered. And I know your audience wants to feel that way too. So I would suggest they look for a broker who's willing to educate them about the process and all the complicated steps in between. It is so complex in the United States.
Absolutely.
I know in other countries, very often, Steve, I've seen people buy real estate on a handshake. And you've seen it too.
Yes.
But in the United States, man, there's these huge, thick contracts. It's amazing what goes on. And you need someone to guide you through it, but not do everything for you, help you to understand the process and what everything is about.
I think this is a perfect sort of example of what building the bridge means, why I call this show what it is, because they're not going to be receptive to learning if they don't feel respected, valued, and really like they're part of the process. And that's such a huge, important step, because if you don't make them feel that way, they're not going to be able to learn, and you're not going to be able to include them in that process. And probably they're going to see it as a very dry transaction where the broker just sees money signs, and they're not going to work with that person for the next transaction or refer their friends and family to that broker.
Exactly. And unfortunately, I think it's probably a minority of real estate brokers who really make an attempt to be sensitive to people's culture. Again, I think most of them believe, I'm just not going to see your culture. I'm going to treat you like everybody else. And the problem is, people don't want to be treated like everybody else.
Right.
We all want to be treated as special, unique human beings. And part of that is our culture and our beliefs and our food. And so what I do is I teach real estate brokers how to bring up those topics. Instead of asking like, where are you from, Steve? You might say, New York. Where somebody asked me where I'm from, I'd say San Francisco. That doesn't help you at all. I teach brokers to ask people, can I ask you, where are your ancestors from? And that answer then opens up a wonderful discussion about culture and family. And that relationship becomes much deeper, much quicker, because in America, buying any kind of property, whether it's commercial property or a home, is a very, very intimate relationship.
Absolutely.
Because as you know, Steve, they're trusting us with their financial information. They're trusting us with a lot of personal and legal information that we need to hold confidential, but we know more about them than sometimes their best friends.
Right.
And so in order to do that, we need to trust them and they need to trust us. And so I'll be talking about my family, they'll be talking about their family. We trust each other. And that's why I do business with clients for a lifetime.
Fantastic, Michael. That's one of the reasons why I asked you to be a guest on the show. So thank you for sharing your knowledge. If someone has questions or they're really worried about not finding the right broker, or somebody who only sees dollar signs, and they want somebody who's going to understand and respect their background and their culture, how do they get in touch with you?
It's easy, Steve. Happy to hear from anyone by email. It's simple. My email is the number 88mlee@gmail.com, 88mlee@gmail. 8s are very lucky in many cultures, Steve. So just feel free to email me anytime. Love to hear from you.
Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge, Michael. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Steve.